And welcome into episode 3 of Meet the Rams Home Run Alley. I'm your host, James Trietley, and alongside me, we have the pitching coach for the Texas Wesleyan Rams, Kelly Shoppach. Kelly, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you on today. An absolute pleasure. Let's go ahead and start out with the basics, okay? 9-5 to start the season, 14 games, and still very early. Talk about your overall thoughts so far.
Well, we've been very inconsistent. We've had some really great outings on the mound. That has picked up the offense and the defense, and then vice versa the other way. We haven't thrown the ball very well. So just trying to find the consistency in the lineup, trying to find the right combination of guys on the mound to give us the best chance to win. You talk about 9-5, that's a part of the early part of the season. Head above water here. First and foremost, our goals are always to win the conference, so we're trying to prep into that, make sure guys are healthy as we head into conference in a couple weeks.
Now, going over to your specialty as the pitching staff, as the pitching coach, we talked about there's early season struggles, what we're seeing, and we haven't seen that consistency of a rotation or a bullpen yet. It seems kind of like a next man up mentality. What are some of the things you've seen these guys doing well so far?
Well, again, it's about being consistent. The reason we haven't gotten to a defined roles is we haven't had the guys or enough guys step up and really say, this is what I want to do. Guys have to step in and prove that they can throw strikes in order to get deeper into games. That's what a starter does. So as we continue to work through those combinations, we've had a few guys that have thrown the ball very, very well, but we can't depend on those guys. We can't just rely on those guys. We've got to have other guys that step in. So guys are going to keep getting opportunities to prove that they can do it. And when someone steps up, I'm hoping that we can define roles, but the game has ebb and flow to it. So if we get to a point where there's no starters, as there was last year, we had about 12 different guys start a game early on. That's kind of been the feel this year until someone really steps up and takes hold of it.
Now, jumping over to your past a little bit, you had a 9-year MLB career. We knew we were going to talk about it at some point. You spent a few years with a few different organizations overall. Talk about what you're bringing from that major league experience into your coaching.
Well, I think a lot of it for me, and what's really attracted me this age group, the college level, is it's really life experience. These young people are trying to figure out what to do with the rest of their lives in this short window. They tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves. So what really drives me every day is putting my arm around these kids. Forget the baseball. We use baseball as a tool. It's about helping these kids through the challenges that they're going with their grades, their academics, their off the field, and then not to mention you're hitting 200 at the plate. That's tough. So there's a lot going on for them, and I think just the struggles and the failures that I had in my career is very relatable, and it gives me an instant credibility to these young people to say, look, I've lived through the toughest of what you've always dreamed of doing. But let's go back, and what's the challenge here is surviving being a student athlete, right? After you've taken care of all of your academic stuff, now we have to go out onto the baseball field and teaching these guys how to compartmentalize and how to separate the two so that they don't run into each other, which for a young person, that's a part of growing up and having the ability to be around them, chat with them about the things that I went through, share some stories, maybe break the ice, maybe break the tension that they're feeling, so that we can really just enjoy what we're doing and playing baseball and put everything else aside. It's really what I think that I bring to them, and having kids come back who I've spent 3 or 4 years with and say, Coach, you don't know how much that meant to me, just chatting, just talking, nothing to do with baseball. So that's really what brings me to this age group. It's tough. I mean, life's tough, and it's going to hit them all really, really fast. And if I can help them transition into adulthood and what I would call the real world, it really drives me to stay here. And it keeps me motivated to keep coming back and just sharing the things that I got to do with them.
Now, you, again, like we talked about, you're a player for 9 years. And not a lot of players will jump right into that coaching stance, get right into it. Some of them want to play and then just be done and enjoy retirement. Now, you made that transition. What was that transition like? What made you want to get into coaching?
Well, I retired at 33 years old. I sat around for 1 year and told my wife, this ain't going to work. I can't sit around here at this age. I'm kind of a busy guy as it is. But my last few years of my career, really each job was to teach a young person, a young player, the grind of what it takes to be a major league catcher. And so I always wanted to be a coach. I thought I was going to be a football coach. I thought I would work for my brother, who was the head coach and offense coordinator in high school, at the high school level, and I thought, hey, I just work for him. And then once I realized how much they work, I wanted nothing to do with football. They work way too many hours. So that transition was something I had had in mind from a young age. And in the last few years of teaching young players, Mike Zunino, John Jaso, Robinson Chirinos, Salt Lamakia, helping those guys transition into being everyday catchers was something that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed that more than I actually did playing at that point. So getting into coaching was something I wanted to do. Falling in at Texas Wesleyan was pure luck. I ran into the old head coach here. He asked, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Nothing." He said, "You want to coach in college?" And I said, "Sure." So it was really easy. And then when I met Bobby, we've been great friends right from the start. That's what makes it work. He has a little bit more of the college amateur side. I have a little bit more of the professional side of development. So that marriages together, and I think our players really benefit from both sides.
And it helps that you can stay close to home. You know, growing up in White Settlement and going to Brewer, that's got to be a match made in heaven almost, right?
Well, of course. I mean, being able to eat dinner at home every night is a big deal because we don't have lights. So the opportunity for me to go other places doesn't attract me. Fort Worth is my home. I was born and raised here. I continue to live here. My wife is an import from Florida. I tucked her into living here. She's now converted and a Texan. So this is where our people are. This is where we need to be. And I get to do the things that I love to do, which is try to impact young people in a positive way here in my own hometown. So it's just a perfect fit for me.
Now, jumping back over to the team itself, we talked about a little bit your intangibles that you have, and now let's look at some of the players. What are you seeing that these guys have their intangibles off the field?
Well, I think each one is going to be individually different, right? But I think the environment that Coach Garza provides here gives them an opportunity to build their own culture. And I'm sure he's talked about that in the past, and if you've ever spent any time with him, he really believes in it's really the players who decide what type of team we're going to have. We're going to structure the practice. We're going to provide the weight room. We're going to make sure they're on their academics. So everything that they need will be in place. And then how they define what type of team they are, each one has their individual intangibles that's going to rub off on the next one. And so if we can get the right guys in the right places, for instance, our second baseman, his ability to move around positions and his toughness at the plate, those type of things rub off onto the next guy. McLeod banging the strike zone over and over and over. People see he has some success. Well, maybe there's something to throwing more strikes, and that kind of rubs off. So sometimes it's not verbal intangibles. Sometimes it's how you play the game, the way you go about your business, how you work. All those things kind of combine, and if we get everybody pulling in the same direction, some of that consistency will start to kind of even out, and our talent will really start to show when we can play more consistently.
And when you talked about McLeod and Tomlinson, who have had tremendous starts to the season overall. Now, looking at the team, some teams have winning mottos and extra motivation. We always know a championship is the goal. Everybody sets it right here. Do you guys have a motto that y'all have going into the season at all that y'all drive around?
Yeah, I think it's important that we try to stay away from gimmicks.
Okay.
Right? I think sometimes it can just be a tagline, some kind of false motto.
Like the Rams go with Rams up, like Texas Wesleyan's a big Rams up.
Yeah, it's
you don't want to be too.
It's a very general, statement. We try to just impress what we believe, which is it's our team and it's our goal, and we've done that for a few years now. It used to be a my team, my goal, right? But we've kind of modified that because of the collective that we want them to be. Right? They have to be together. We think we can assemble the talent on the recruiting side of it and get guys in here that are talented enough to win. Now we've got to convince them that they have to do it together. So that's always the challenge year in and year out, is trying to get a team to come together because the roster overturns quite significantly at the NAIA level. So it's hard to find those guys, that core group of guys that are going to be here for 4 or 5 years. And so that's our challenge as a coaching staff. We think we assemble the talent to win. We've got to figure out how to get them to do it together.
And one of the things you mentioned, the my team to our team, that helps, especially being in a team sport like baseball. It's not just one guy. It's the entire team, whether it's a guy who started top of the order or it's a guy who was, right there on the bench ready to pinch hit. It's just next man up mentality, right?
Right. I mean, I agree. I mean, the pitcher to batter is a one-on-one battle between those two, one-on-one chess match between those two. However, in baseball, there's so many plays and so many things within that play where you need everybody. You've got to have the shortstop field it cleanly, get a good throw to the second baseman. He's got to protect himself from the runner, make a turn and throw to first base for a double play to happen. So just in that play, you need the pitcher, you need the catcher, you need the shortstop, second baseman, and first baseman for one play. Now, that's not as many as on a football field, but each play, right, we're going to have 250 plays a game on both sides. The team concept in baseball must be realized, and sooner we can get our guys to realize we do it together. It's not you versus them, it's us versus them. We're going to have some success here.
Now, going into this weekend, this matchup, you have a 3-game series against Sterling College out of Kansas. You just played a couple teams out of state. Now you have another one, but you're on the other side of town. You're in Dallas playing at the Texas Rangers Youth Academy. What are your overall thoughts going into this weekend series?
Well, I think it's important that we continue to play out-of-conference teams. That time is really a chance for us. What we're trying to do is we're trying to win in the postseason. We believe that we're going to compete every year, but it's not just about playing in the postseason. We're going to try to compete to go to Lewiston. Our goals are to be in Lewiston at the World Series. And so anytime we have a chance to play an out-of-conference, out-of-state, plus being in Texas, everybody wants to come down here from the north and play, which we haven't had great weather. They haven't got to miss that side of it. But last year they took 2 out of 3 from us. And so yesterday they beat Oklahoma City, which is a perennial powerhouse in the Sooner Athletic Conference. So we know we're going to have to play well as we continue to work out our kinks so that we can become a fine-tuned machine. Everybody knows what their role is and where they're going. But that takes time, especially like we talked about just a minute ago, the different cultures that we're bringing in here into one place, trying to figure out a way for them to build their own culture based around our team and our goal.
So now we look at this weekend, and it should be a very exciting one out there in Dallas. But Kelly, we thank you for joining in. This weekend, like we said, the Rams will be taking on Sterling College out in Dallas at the Texas Rangers Youth Academy. First game of the doubleheader starts at noon. For Kelly Shoppach, I'm James Trietley. We'll see you next time.
Nailed it. I don't think I